What new type of mutant brings the X-Men to Africa? Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read dramatically back to you all alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Don't forget to support this great industry by buying these books online or at your local comic book store if you really do enjoy them. Now, this is an older storyline, so certain elements are still around. Primarily, Wolverine is alive in this one. Our story begins with Havoc going to see Emma Frost regarding a report that he just received from Africa. There seems to be a giant monster running around, and it has eaten a world-famous reporter. The reporter was reporting on the issues and anarchy that have come over Africa from the time that Ubuntu was removed from power. As Emma looks over the images, she tells everyone that she's getting some rather strange readings from Cerebro, and that a new kind of mutant is emerging in Africa, and it's not based on humans. Emma tells everyone that they don't know to the extent of what this problem is, and they won't until they get there, and it seems to be coming from Uganda. So she expects everyone to be ready in an hour to leave. Storm shows up and tells Emma that she too will be going. She knows that part of Africa rather well. And as everyone gets ready to leave, Emma changes her mind and decides that she will be best suited staying back and monitoring things from Cerebro to make sure that they don't spread outside of Uganda. Once there, Havoc speaks with the cameraman that was working with the reporter, and the cameraman directs him over to a spot where the reporter was taken. Wolverine begins his own tracking by following the scent of the reporter down to a tree, and that's when Wolverine begins to take a closer look, and he hears Storm yell. Everyone begins to rush out of the tree to Storm to see what happened, and they see that Storm has been taken underwater. Havoc tells everyone to go, but Wolverine tells him not to worry about it. It looks like Storm has everything under control, and just then, Wolverine jumps out of the way of a bolt of lightning that comes crashing down into the water. The team begins fighting off mutant crocodiles, but after they finish defeating them, Wolverine begins to think that the bigger ones may have gotten away. Havoc tells everyone that they need to chase them down, but Storm tells him that she's going to speak with the locals to see if she can gather more information. So, as Storm and Wolverine leave, Storm finds some radicals threatening to kill a woman and her child because her husband is an official of the Uganda Democratic Party and they want to know where he is. As they begin to drop the woman into the pit, Storm begins to change the winds that carry the woman off to safety, and then she and Wolverine fight off the radicals. Once they're done, Storm tells Wolverine to give her a moment alone to speak with these locals, and shortly after, the two leave and they meet back up with the rest of the team to report back what they found. As the night begins to set in, Storm tells everyone that there's a place that the locals are simply calling the Factory, and she goes on to state that jobs were there for a little while, but people who came to work had a habit of disappearing. And Wolverine says, "I've heard the same about McDonald's." As the team begins to go deeper into the facility, Gambit pulls back a cloth over a cage hiding a monster, and he asks, "What kind of factory is this?" Iceman says, "It's a monster factory!" And Storm tells him that he might actually be onto something. But why a factory for monsters? As the team continues to go through, Wolverine stops everyone and he tells them that he heard something, and he smells it too. He then begins to lead the way and he tells them that the smell is kind of familiar. Havoc blows open a door and everyone runs in to see T'Challa at a computer, not the nasty monster you were looking for. Storm begins to ask what is going on here, but that's when everyone looks down to see a scientist lying on the floor. T'Challa tells everyone, "Do not come in here." The scientist begins to get up and ask for help, but as the scientist runs to the door, T'Challa jumps on him, telling them to shut the door. T'Challa then starts to punch the scientist, and the team questions who's really the bad guy here. But Havoc doesn't wait around for an answer. He tells Rogue to blow open the door, and then Wolverine charges in after T'Challa, but he ends up throwing Wolverine back into everyone. Rogue flies over to check on the scientist, but before T'Challa can tell her to get away, the scientist grabs her and it says, "It's pretty ironic that you would be my first victim." And he begins to absorb her powers. The scientist then turns and begins to throw fire at everyone. But while everyone tries to figure out what's going on, the scientist then runs over to Iceman and Wolverine and absorbs their powers. He then moves over to Storm and Gambit, but Havoc blasts him through the roof and that scientist escapes. Havoc looks up and says, "Well, that didn't go well." And Gambit asks, "Who was that guy?" T'Challa tells everyone that man was Erich Payne, a scientist who was mutating humans and turning them into superpowered slaves. But as the war began to break out over here, the country's power grid went out and some of Payne's creations got loose and started eating people. So Havoc's next question is, how did Payne become a mutant? T'Challa goes on to state that Payne knew the X-Men would come after him, so he injected himself with chemicals that allow him to mimic mutant abilities when he touches them. Havoc then tells Storm that she should stay here while the rest of them go out there and look for Payne, since that was probably what she was going to do anyway. So the team begins to chase down Payne, and as they begin running through the hallway, Wolverine starts to smell something that smells like gas. Havoc tells Iceman to ice all of these vents, and as he starts to, lasers begin to fire at him. Polaris destroys one and Gambit blows up another another one. But because of Gambit's explosion, he ended up causing more gas to fill the room. Everyone begins to pass out, and Wolverine attempts to call Storm, but before he can, he's stabbed in the back by Pain with his own claws that Pain stole from him. While Storm is heading outside to handle more radicals, T'Challa decides to stay inside to try and find a way to turn off these mutations in Pain, and that's when he suddenly is captured by a four-armed gorilla. The four-armed gorilla starts swinging, but as T'Challa jumps out of the way, the gorilla grabs him by the leg and throws him. When T'Challa looks up, he sees a baboon, which then causes him to state, "I hate baboons." The baboon grabs him and tells him, "Well, they hate you too." T'Challa says, "You could talk?" And the baboon tells him, "I can do that, and a lot more. Look into my eyes." Just then, T'Challa's vision begins to get very blurry, and the gorilla tells the baboon to hold him still. But back over with Pain, he continues his work while he talks to a client, telling the client that their order is ready, and they might be interested in some of the new items that he just acquired. But as Pain stands over the X-Men with a buzzsaw, he says that they can come in singles, a set, or even parts. Back over with T'Challa, the gorilla holds T'Challa while the baboon tells him he's getting sleepy, very sleepy, and when I count from 5 to 1, you'll do exactly what I say. 5, 4, 3, 4, 1. Curse my idiot baboon brain. What comes before 3? Then the baboon hears someone tell him 2 as he's kicked in the head. Just then, 2 of T'Challa's bodyguards arrive. T'Challa begins to break free and his bodyguards continue to fight off the rest of the apes, but over in the corner, Storm returns to check on T'Challa, but he seems to have everything that he needs. He's got 2 women with him. T'Challa tries to stop Storm, but she walks off after seeing her former husband with 2 women. Later though, T'Challa follows Storm to try and explain what she saw, but Storm really doesn't want to hear any of it. He won't break her heart a second time. T'Challa tells her that he really has no intention of doing so, but what are they doing out here? Storm tells him they're looking for a strange beast that attacked the local refugee camp. But as they begin to bicker about what Storm saw, the strange beast itself that they were looking for shows up and attacks. So Storm asks T'Challa, was he able to find a turn-off switch for these things? And he tells her, no luck, we're just gonna have to deal with them one at a time. As the beast comes crashing down, Storm tells T'Challa to grab it from behind while she takes it from the front. And he tells her, you know, this feels right, fighting side by side like this. But T'Challa supposes that that's a goddess's prerogative if she wants to spend time with him. And she tells him that she forgot how much he likes to talk. Only when I'm having fun. Back at Pain's labs, Pain's client arrives with his 2 ape companions asking why does this baboon have an eye patch? Pain tells him that it's a precaution because he gave the baboon the ability to hypnotize and he can't do it with one eye, so he's being punished for not listening. But soon Pain and his client Red Ghost, a government official, leave to go view Ghost's order, and while they walk away, Pain tells him that they need to talk about his payment. You see, he could get a lot more for these if he put them out on the open market. But Ghost tells him that his gross capitalism pains him. He has decided to nationalize his factory. Everything will be used for the common good, and Pain asks who's going to decide what the common good is. And Ghost tells him, I do naturally. So Pain asks him, how do I get paid? Ghost tells him that in the new socialist Simian Republic of Naganda, there will be no money. But do not worry, you'll get used to it. You'll have no option but to. But Ghost has not come here to argue. He's come here to see his merchandise. As Pain and Ghost continue to Pain's lab, Ghost says that so long as these mutants are with him, victory is assured. But are they still alive? Pain tells him yes, but they will have to remain in a state of unconsciousness until he removes a part of their brain. That way they will become mindless automatons with no choice but to listen to what they're told, unlike those apes that follow him. Ghost informs Pain that he is also in need of some political re-education, but for now, let's leave the doctor to his work. Back with Storm, Storm received a message from Emma stating that she is only getting faint signals from the other X-Men, and that Storm should head to the factory to see what's going on. But over in the factory, Pain begins to wake up the X-Men, telling them that he needs their help stopping Red Ghost. Red Ghost is trying to turn Naganda into a socialist state, so it's their duty as freedom-loving mutants to fight him, right? Wolverine doesn't want to listen, and he tells Pain that he's got some answering to do, but Pain pushes him back with Iceman's powers, telling him that he has Polaris being injected with snake venom, and if they don't help him, she's gonna die. Oh, and don't try to release her. If you do, her veins will automatically fill with the poison, so hopefully, you'll all make the right choice. And with that, Pain leaves. Once outside though, Ghost tells the rest of his apes that they're not gonna trust Pain. Pain loves money too much, so go take an inventory of that factory. And with that, the apes run off. But instead of checking, the apes go release the baboon who is chained up. The baboon tells them that he's been working on something that will take care of everyone. And back in the lab, the team tries to figure out their next move when Storm arrives and asks what is going on with Polaris. Pain watches them from another room, and when he sees something else on another screen, he flashes the cameras and sees T'Challa sneaking back in. Later, Storm begins to lead everyone to go find Ghost, and as they walk, Iceman asks, this place is big, how are we supposed to find him? But before they've even turned a corner, they hear somebody calling out looking for somebody. The team jumps out to find Ghost, but Ghost quickly fades and gets away. Iceman begins to freeze the air to see if they can see Ghost's breath, but Wolverine tells him that he's not waiting around, he's gonna go find him. As Wolverine continues down, he sees a room filled with fire, and when he goes in, he finds T'Challa fighting a giant winged beast. He then jumps into the fight to help control that beast, but as as they fight, Wolverine grabs the beast by the tail and slams him into the wall. Elsewhere, the apes begin to gather around the baboon's work. It's a virus that will kill all of the humans. One of the apes asks if he's sure this will kill the humans, and the baboon tells him, of course, can't you read? No, the ape tells him. Over in another part of the factory, Ghost begins to fade through a wall when he receives a tap on the shoulder. He then turns around and Rogue punches him. Ghost begins to wake up and he finds himself on the floor with Havoc holding his chest. So if he tries to fade, Havoc will just blow a hole through everything. So he probably shouldn't do that. Havoc tells Ghost that they are being blackmailed by Pain to kill him, so Ghost shouldn't have a problem helping them get back at Pain, right? Rogue starts to help Ghost up, and Storm asks Wolverine where T'Challa is, and Wolverine tells her that he's housebreaking a pet. He'll be around later. The X-Men take Ghost to Pain's monitoring room, and they tell him to release Polaris now. But Pain tells them that they're supposed to kill him, not bring back Ghost alive. Havoc tells Pain that he's gonna give him a 5 count. 5, 4, but Pain tells everyone to back up, and he begins blasting them using Havoc's abilities. Rogue tries to fly in, but he freezes her with Iceman's ability, and then Storm begins to electrocute Pain. Everyone continues to fight with Pain until T'Challa comes breaking down the walls, riding the giant winged beast from before. T'Challa runs over to Ghost, who has been trying to release Polaris, but when T'Challa asks what is the problem, Ghost tells him that he doesn't have time to explain such a sophisticated device like this too, and T'Challa walks up, hits a couple of buttons, and releases Polaris. Ghost asks how, but T'Challa tells him that he doesn't have time to explain. The fight with Pain continues, but just as Pain is starting to win, Ghost appears behind him and rips his heart out. Havoc says that he can't believe he did that, and T'Challa tells him, well, that saved him the trouble of it. Havoc states, wait, you would have killed him if Ghost didn't? And T'Challa tells him, that was an option, yes. But Gambit tells them not to interrupt. The bad guys are getting away. Outside on the rooftop of the factory, the apes look down on the humans who have gathered around their virus. Ghost comes up through the floor and he sees the baboon holding the canister and he asks, what's that? None of your business, the baboon states, and then he throws it down at the people. But just before it lands, winds rise up to stop the canister and Storm flies in to take it back to the roof where Iceman has everyone frozen. T'Challa asks Iceman if he can freeze the virus, and Havoc tells T'Challa that there's no argument against that plan. Wolverine tells everyone, great, now everyone made up, so let's get this thing out of here. With everyone beginning to walk towards the jet, T'Challa asks Storm why she's leaving so soon. She should enjoy her homeland, and she tells him that she actually thinks she will, just not in Wakanda with him. But before leaving, Storm kisses T'Challa and tells him their paths will cross again. Hope you guys enjoyed this little extra story with the X-Men, and if you did enjoy, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Comicstorian. And if you want more comic books, we have a gaming channel known as Eligible Monster where you can get gaming comic books every Friday, and we have a manga channel known as Comicstorian where you can get manga videos every Monday and Friday. I'll see you next time right here.